you on this tiny little Greek island. What a weekend. We had a storm, 3 days, 3 full days of very, very, very strong winds and rain and losing electricity and unable to be here yesterday. As you may have noticed, some of you, I didn't show up. We had, again, power outages. The internet was down. You know, it's the part and parcel of living in a rural area, you know, and in a country that, well, you know, in many ways is not quite up to par with you guys over there in the States. Having said that, there is still here plenty of other parts of living, of daily life, that I find quite enjoyable. And I find things here somewhat more realistic. Perhaps because we are a smaller country, things are not with the same embellishment. Your daily life doesn't have the same embellishments that it has. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you. Good morning. Life doesn't have the same embellishments that it has in the States, right? Or I think in also Northern European countries, and I'm sure elsewhere across the world that I'm unfamiliar with. So some of those things are missing, even though I do know that I have friends in a rural part of the United States. When a big storm does come in, there is plenty of damage, plenty of discomfort, plenty of troubles, because across the world, no matter what kind of economic stability slash country you are living in, when the weather comes in and the weather is angry, you're in for some trouble. There's absolutely nothing you can do. And luckily we're up on a hill, we're up high, so we did not have any flooding here. Some people here on the island, the people that were living that have, you know, basement or ground floor areas and on the lower ends of the hills, had some difficulty. But the biggest damage that we had here on this island was in the fishing harbors. We have 2 fishing harbors, boat harbors, and a fishing boat sank. Sank. And that was one difficult reminder of our own experience with that sinking of our fishing boat about 3 years ago, and you know that we are still coming out of that process. It's big. It's so much bigger than what you can imagine until it happens, and the full recovery of it is requires patience. And there are good things about coming through a catastrophe like that. And during this past weekend, when these things were happening, was pulled back into to the time when we also lost our livelihood. We lost everything, right? It was a complete total crash. and all the goodness that came from that, right? And a forced realignment of I'll speak personally for me, of who I am and what I choose to focus on, because that's it, the choice to focus on your life and how you are going to go about doing that. That is what is so incredibly beautiful about all catastrophes. Can I say that? At least I'll bring it to a personal level, so I'm not pushing my ideas onto anybody else. But I think on a personal level, every time I have gone through some kind of big thing, of course, you're tumbling through that, and it's a mess, and it's difficult, and there's that. You get thrown into a dark room with all this stuff, and you're bumping into things, and you don't really know where you're going until you find that little crack in the door with there's some light on the other side of that. Let me try and push that door open and get to that side, get to a place of balance, of understanding, of opening up, because you cannot become balanced until you open up into new areas of who you are and your experience of life. So for me, catastrophes, I mean, really difficult things, give me the opportunity to grow. And when I am growing and expanding, what does this have to do with painting, right? But when I am growing and expanding, somehow I become more present within myself. And when I can do that, I then become more connected to my artwork, to my creativity, to who I am as this human being here on this tiny little planet. Well, maybe that's debatable. I don't know enough about the universe to know if we're tiny or not, but I think we're pretty small. I think, at least on a contextual kind of level, we're pretty insignificant. It reminds me of the Dr. Seuss story, All the Who's Down in Whoville. We are pretty much like Whoville, which is a planet and a speck of dust. That's that's pretty much what we are. So, anyways, to get out of the Dr. Seuss thing, coming back to the catastrophe. So, a fishing boat sank, and this fishing boat was not, thankfully, the core of this person's livelihood, uh, but it's a huge loss. And again, in this country, fishing boats are not. You cannot insure them. You can't insure them. I really hope that changes. So it's a lot of extra push and focused intention of where you're going and how you're going to get through this. And I have been blessed with watching my husband from the day that the boat sank and was gone. I mean, literally gone, sank to the bottom of the Aegean Sea, 600 meters below. Gone. Wow, that was really something. And how quickly, like within a day or two, he just adjusted his focus and he's like, okay, it's gone. I can't do anything about it. I'm not going to sit there in the misery of that and the difficulty of it, of the, oh my God, what are we going to do now? And he just realigned himself and moved forward. And that was incredible. It was incredible to watch, to just see how he just refocused himself and said, "Okay, here we are today. This is where we're going. This is what I'm going to do." And he started building another boat, which he had never done before. But he just somehow figured it out and built a new boat and did all the processes, and we're still coming out of it. We probably have another 2 years to be going through this thing. It's a 5-year thing coming out of it. So this person this past weekend who lost his fishing boat, sending so much love to you, and hopes that things will develop and come out in a beautiful way. And another a sailboat sank also in the other harbor, again down on the bottom, and the mast is just sticking out of the water. It's really quite frightening to see. For me, it is. Sunken boats and ships, ships especially, but sunken boats, and it's quite terrifying. So again, although this was not a livelihood per se, it's a huge loss, and my heart goes out to everyone here on the island. When we lost our fishing boat, it is our livelihood. It is how we live. And I think because of that, we had a great help from the villagers here, the people on this island. The support was unbelievable. Again, I will forever, as long as I'm alive, send out my gratitude to all of you out there who did come together and pitch in and support and help us move towards getting back established on the sea. So that's one of the beautiful things of living on in a rural area. I'm assuming that in most rural areas, people do come together in times of strife. In the cities, maybe not so much, if at all. So I've been thinking about those things because this weather was insane. We had not actually had that type of weather, that type of wind, such strong winds coming in. It's been 20 some years since we had something like that happen, and this was a wind. It was a northeastern wind, which we're very close to the mainland, so we have this wall of hills coming from that direction, and there's only maybe 3 miles maybe it's 3 kilometers. It's really not far to the mainland. So you would think that the space of sea from the mainland to the island, that you couldn't really get such big waves, but the waves were so big that they were crashing over the harbor, over the barrier, the rocks, and everything, and into the harbor area. The winds were so strong that the second boat that we are building right now was actually blown over. Thankfully, it's on dry land, so it just, was blown over the boat with the trailer. Can you imagine the strength of the winds that we had? It was incredible. Thankfully, no real damage, and we're lifting the boat back up today. But wow. So a reminder of the catastrophe. I'll call it a catastrophe of losing our livelihood, losing something that we tend to see life as being, the things that we have, that there's somehow something permanent because they're big and they're solid. And how could you possibly lose it, right? But there you go, right? The weather will come in, nature will come in, an earthquake will happen, something, and everything just crumbles to the ground, and you are left with, wow, shock. You're left with the destruction. You're left with, oftentimes it's losing everything you have, everything. And how do you come through that? And what does any of this have to do with painting? maybe not very much. But coming through it and bringing yourself to what is in the present moment, because our fishing boat no longer is the present moment. It's gone. It's in the past. It's a memory. It's we had it. It was great. It was a big boat, 20 meters long. I guess that would be somewhere around 60 some feet, I guess. Sorry, can't remember from the metric system to feet. But anyways, it's you just can't sit back there. You can't be there. You can't turn and focus on what you don't have anymore. You cannot. It won't get you anywhere. The only power that we have is to focus on what we have right now, even if it ain't great, right? Even if there's difficulties, even if you're struggling, even if you have a wealthy life, but things just don't feel right, things are not good, things are not, you don't feel the joy of your life, of all the beautiful things that you have. It's just there because you have it, because you're supposed to do this, that, or the other thing in order to move through life. And, that can be harder than when you actually lose everything, to actually come in and just begin to take notice of what you've got right now, the beauty of what is available to you right now. If you're having difficult relationships, if you have a difficult relationship, let's say with your partner, rather than focusing of what they're not doing, of where they aren't, that their focus may be right now on their ego, well, as long as you're focusing on all of that, that's pretty much all you're going to see in that person. So I'm not saying to ignore what's happening here, but you're with this person because there were good things. Try and look at the plate, right? This is because I went through this. So, I had a choice of just like throwing the plate out altogether or taking a look at my plate of food, my relationship, and focusing on how much of that plate were things that I really enjoy about this person. I may be really angry at them, but pushing the anger aside, how much of this person are foods on the plate that I really enjoy eating, and how much are the things that I don't really like very much, or things that I absolutely despise. And for me, it came out, at the time, well, okay, maybe 60% of the stuff on the plate was good and I wanted it. And then the rest was, I could balance out the plate and go, should I chuck it? Should I keep it? I kept the plate of food. And as I focused more and more on the positive things, on the things that I actually enjoyed, boy, I don't know. I began to see more things that I actually pretty much liked on this plate of food that I was eating. And the more I focused on the things that I enjoyed, there were more things for me to focus, to enjoy. And sometimes sometimes the plate's gotta go. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, people who suffer out there and have really, really awful relationships to get out and create your own plate of food. Oh my God, my very strange analogies. Forgive me if I'm not making any sense, but it's all kind of the same thing. So we lost our livelihood. We lost a fishing boat. It's huge. It's huge. We're still coming out of it. But if we focus on all the bad things, if I focus on all the things that I don't have in my day, being here on this tiny little Greek island, then my day is going to be awful. And I don't want my day to be awful. There's so much to do. So in painting, if I'm painting on something and focusing on like all the things that aren't going well, I mean, I can start to see things that are just going to shut me down creatively. And I'm not going to spend my time doing that. I'm not going to spend my time in this negative downward spiral in my own life. And I'm not going to do it here when I'm at the easel. If I'm not mixing my colors well, if I'm making a mess of it, if it's not turning out, well, okay, it's not turning out. What can I learn from what I'm doing? How can I focus on right now and moving forward and supporting that beam of creativity coming through me rather than shutting it down? Because if I'm focusing on all the things that I'm not doing well, that I don't know how to do yet, that are, and I'm focusing on it with negativity, not focusing on it with positivity. Like, I know there are some areas of my artwork, a lot of areas of my artwork that need improvement. So looking at that, but in a positive light and saying, okay, I need to expand here. I need to learn how to do this. How do I get myself beyond my own limitations and borders and expand myself creatively, and how I do my brushwork, all of that, right? So if I focus in a positive level on the negative things, it's good. That's really, really good. And I try and do the same thing in my life. And, you know, it's, we're coming to the end of the year, right? We're in December. It's the end of 2024. Lots of things have gone wrong this year. Some goals I may not reach. One of my goals is to get to 5,000 followers by the end of the year. I don't know if I'm going to actually get there. I might. I hope so. But if I don't, I don't. Right? I get to a certain point. It'll be somewhat of a failure, but not really. So I can look at what I didn't do enough of to get myself to that 5,000 followers. And in a positive way, the glass half full kind of way, and move into how I can more effectively use this YouTube, a greater sense of channel to, because this is my lifeline, right? I'm on this tiny Greek island. There are no artists here that, there's, especially English speaking artists. There are a few artists here actually that are, well, they come and go. But but you know what I mean? I mean, there's 500 people on this island. Hello, right? Hello. It's not an artistic community. It's a small rural Greek village, primarily a fishing village, and now, of course, tourism. And I'm swimming in these waters right now, and so this YouTube channel is my lifeline out into the greater sphere of things. And I love it. I love these morning musings. I love this channel. I love doing all these things. And it's all part of that same thing of every day coming to right now, what is available to me, and staying with the good enough energy that this is going to work, this is good enough, this morning musings is good enough. I'm going to put it out there. This painting is good enough. Learning a few things on, especially this one. It's a scene from Savannah. When I was in Savannah, Georgia, we used to live there for about a year, back in 2017-18. And this beautiful morning, spectacular morning, with the clouds coming in and the colors. It was spectacular. So I'm going to try and put it together. It's a scene that I'm unfamiliar with because I'm normally painting Greece, normally painting things that I know already, because this is what's in front of me. I'm showing you the window with the scene out there. And so I'm more familiar with mixing my colors and doing the things that way. So there's just things that I need to expand myself on, become present with, to know that yesterday doesn't exist anymore, and to move on. And that has been the big lesson this past weekend. From this very, very difficult storm, that we haven't seen anything like it for at least 20 years. I actually want to say, until like back in the early 1990s, late 1980s. I came here, I think, 1986. Oops. Looks like our electricity went out. Here we go again. All right. So with that, you guys, be inspired, be creative, be you. Take a deep breath and things moving forward. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. I will see you all again tomorrow. Check the beach.